to make sure we have it for anybody who wants to see it afterwards.
And I'm just checking in with Millie. As folks are coming in, can you let them in if they're coming in late, or is it just?
Yes, I can.
You can. Do you mind
Yes.
helping us with that as we get started?
Yeah, no problem.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, one or two more like minutes, give everybody a chance to work their way in. I trust you.
If you need to go grab another cup of tea or a cup of coffee, we'll probably get started in a couple minutes, but there might be time to refresh it, just to give people a few minutes.
I would like to ask Fred a question. It's Yvonne. Fred, we don't have red willow in Chilliwack, like in the Fraser Valley. So I wonder, where's the closest place to get red willow? Would it be Yale or Boston Bar, or do
You find
know?
it around Lytton, Boston Bar area, in more wetter areas.
Lytton.
Coquihalla, top of Coquihalla.
Okay. Coquihalla.
We've got lots on the island too. If I'm ever over your way, Sam, I could easily run some over to you.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. My sister always wants red willow for her pain.
Oh.
Yeah.
For her what?
For her pain.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think she has arthritis.
Yeah, there's a good pain medicine she can make with willow, fireweed, lavender. There's one more.
What was that one? Flavolin? What?
Lavalin.
What is that?
It grows in a swamp area. It has a really, really nice smell to it when you pick it, but when you drink it smells like dog shit.
Oh gosh.
It's a really good pain. So we pick it way up in Wells Gray Provincial Park. There's a field up, or there's a place up there, and it just grows all over the place.
Where's Wells Grave at?
Wells Gray Park is in Clearwater, British Columbia, just past about an hour and a half out of Kamloops. It grows other places, you know, but that's where I found it to be the most plentiful. I found some up Highway 24. If you're walking out in the bush, if you know what the smell is, you'll smell it. It's just this really beautiful smell to it.
Okay.
That we're all very lucky that we can, hear, these incredible two knowledge holders doing what we do, sharing information, and that's just we're all very lucky to be able to watch that happen. Hey, oh, heights to everybody for that. Yeah. So I think we're gonna try to get started. We have quite a few individuals in here now, and wanted to make sure that we respect everybody that is here already, and we're gonna start. So I guess I'll just start by thanking everybody for attending here today and coming in to learn a little bit about this common language, a report and a toolkit that we were lucky enough to work on last year. And just as always, as I walk into this work, I like to highlight and remind everybody that when we're working in this world where we're trying to walk in these two worlds, that we must realize that a lot of us are new to this work, and this work can actually look rather overwhelming because it's a lot of work to work as one. And so acknowledging that, but also realizing that we've got this opportunity because we are truly the first generation to be able to have these opportunities to work as one. And so just really want to raise, my hands up to everybody and say, oh, hi tap for everybody here today for, taking the time out of their busy schedules to work with us and to learn about this amazing project. So with that, oh yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. Folks are just saying you're sounding a little quiet, and I know that was happening yesterday. Yeah.
How's this? Is that any easier to hear me? Hold on, I am quiet. It's quiet. Okay. Is that okay? Is that any louder? Should I? Let's see.
I'm just waiting to hear from the chat. It's a little better. It's better.
A little louder, please. I get up, come all the way up here on hello everybody on my microphone. Put it right on. Okay, great. Awesome. I will do my best to be louder. I'm always quiet. I don't know. I was raised by like elder that if you were even a little bit loud, she'd say things like, don't be yelling at me now. So you're always trying to always be relaxed and quiet. You don't raise your voice too much. So Hajka for trying to ensure everybody could hear me. Oh, Hajka. Let's try to move into our team's introductions. And so I will start and then I'll hand it over to Fiona. Siepna Schwalakwa, Siepna Schwalmoch, Ainta Schwalmosne, Qwustenuxun. CM school katish Qw'utsun mastimochi hitzel la lamechin at the Schwalmos Ashtens, eat the Schwalmoch Laken. Oh, hitapka, Siepna Siea. What did I say? Hello, everybody. I am Jared Qwustenuxun Williams. I'm an Indigenous chef from the Cowichan Tribes on southern Vancouver Island, and I've been working with Indigenous foods as long as I've had to eat. So some of my earliest memories are wild harvesting salmon out of the river with my family. And so having actually been raised in that world, I've got this incredible opportunity here now to try to bring that world to the rest of the world. I usually highlight in this that I was raised in that world and assumed everybody ate that way until I left it and realized that it was very unique. I would like to ensure that everybody gets access to Indigenous foods everywhere we are. And with that, I will hand it over to Fiona.
Welcome, everyone. It's so great to have so many people come to hear and see this beautiful work from the holders all across BC, and we'll let them a few of them introduce themselves after me. I'm Fiona. I'm a white settler occupier of Irish ancestry. I'm first generation to these lands. I come from County Cork and County Offaly in the town of Tullamore in Ireland through my mom and dad. And my family immigrated to Treaty 6 territory, the homelands of the Métis. But I've personally and professionally benefited these last many years off the lands of the Quw'utsun people, and also the unceded, ancestral, and occupied lands of the Lekwungen people here in Songhees and Esquimalt homelands. And it's Matulia is the Lekwungen word for Victoria. So that's where I'm calling in from today. And just really grateful to be a part of this work. I've learned a ton on this project, as I always do, as I'm on this long unlearning journey as a white settler on these lands. And if I could pass it over to Yvonne to introduce herself, and then Josephine, and then Fred.
Elatis. Good morning, Yvonne Telsqui, Talitsalquaskale. My name is Yvonne and I live in Scoukale, and my Qwustenuxun is Kachta. My name comes from Port Douglas. It was my grandmother's name. And I'm really happy to be here to share and learn and listen. And I've been learning about herbal medicine for about 30 years while, working in communities and helping to identify plants. And I really enjoy taking back the way our ancestors lived and ate and took care of their health. I think our elders were really smart and they knew how to keep their bodies healthy and strong, and they needed to do that because of the different seasons that we lived through. So they always had their seasonal foods that they ate and preserved and paired for the different seasons. So thank you for inviting me, all my relations. I'm done. Thank you.
Good morning, Yvonne.
Ela.
Quw'utsun Telsqui Talitsalquaskale. My English name is Josephine. I'm originally from the Statliam Nation, married into Scowlitz. Happy to be here today. Hope we all have a good day.
My turn.
Yeah, it's all you now, Fred Hitchcock.
White up, Fred Borsche, Qwustenuxun in Lekapmo. So I'm Fred Borsche. I'm a descendant of the Qwustenuxun people, and in Lekapma, from the Cooks Ferry area, also referred as the Thompson people. I'm married, have 4 kids and 6 grandchildren. I'm do a lot of work on food sovereignty. Probably half the time that I work and doing work is on food sovereignty initiatives. The other part of my life is working in the Columbia River, trying to get salmon back, and trying to use, my job is to integrate the Qwustenuxun knowledge into all of the studies and to the processes of salmon recovery, which is quite interesting for me. I am a young elder, or classified as a young elder. I just got on the elders committee last year with my own community, and I've always say that I owe my knowledge to the elders who have passed before me, for being able to learn about medicines. For me, it was my grandma was a really good medicine maker, although she died when I was 5 years old. my dad taught me a few things, and then I started getting into talking about more medicines when I was in researching, but I ground-proofed most of my knowledge with my elders at gatherings, Schwatma gatherings, and so I would just go to them and talk to them and talk about medicines, and they would give me information back. So I know that I'm very thankful for that. And I also know that I'm not the owner of the knowledge. I'm just the holder of the knowledge. And so I've made this commitment to pass on that knowledge to my people, my young people. And I continue to do workshops around medicines, collecting medicines, storing medicines, and just talking to people about medicine. So I'm quite fortunate that now that I'm retired and get to do the things I want to do and choose the things I want to do. So hope we have a great day today and the discussions become good. Qwustenuxun. Qwustenuxun.
Right. CM for everybody for their introductions. Oh, Haitzapka, we would say Haitzapka CM Nasaltwain. Thanking all of the elders and my knowledge holders for their introductions. And I just wanted to use this opportunity to really ground us in this work, especially as we hear Fred referencing just how the information that we have, the wisdom that we hold is the result of these generations of ancestors and elders that held on to this information through incredible adversity for generations, and that we are lucky enough to be able to hold it and receive it, and that I just wanted to use this opportunity to share a specific song which we call our remembrance song, to try to remember not only those elders and those ancestors that held on to this information, but to also remember that there's an entire group of elders and knowledge holders that specifically went out of their way to help with this work, that we were able to work with knowledge holders from across the province in order to be able to create this work. So I just wanted to remember them, and to remember those ancestors in this work here today. ho, hey, ho, 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 Hey, hey, oh, hi, Tapka, siap na siya. Oh, hi, Tapka, for everybody here today. Oh, hi, Tapka. I'll hand it over to Fiona. Hi, Chika.
Hi, CM for that. I needed that. My feet are on the ground. Whew. Appreciate it. Yeah, just before we move on, we of course want to acknowledge the deep brilliance that exists across this so-called province and just all the nations that contributed to this learning and this resource, and the immense knowledge that's existed and transferred through community since time out of mind. And here we have a visual of the 32 different language groups across these lands. And so just really holding our hands up to these nations for their care and advocacy and resistance to keep their language and culture on these lands, and also their inherent rights and title on these lands. And that is an obligation for us settlers on these lands to learn directly from the nations whose land we occupy, and to learn about what has and continues to happen around colonialism and coloniality across these lands. And so want to hold my hands up to the knowledge keepers that helped us get here to today and bring this important learning. We were able to meet with so many people across these lands, and just really grateful for their time. So thank you.
So, Qwustenuxun for really setting us up in a good way this morning, and apologies for my voice, I've lost it. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. My name is Kathleen Yung. I'm the Healthy Eating and Food Security Specialist at First Nations Health Authority, and I work closely with all of our regions and really grateful to be here. I'm a settler of Chinese ancestry. I'm a mom, wife, daughter, and sister, and I acknowledge the privilege and responsibility that I hold being on these unceded and stolen territories that I live on, from Qw'utsun First Nations and the shared territories of the Algonquian speaking peoples, as well as the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish peoples as well. I was born and raised on Treaty 4 territory, and just really acknowledging that I too have benefited from these lands and really hold a lot of responsibility here. I want to really start off just echoing Fiona and Qwustenuxun, really sharing a lot of gratitude around all of the knowledge holders and elders that shared really generously with us through this common language project. It is through their willingness and generosity that really sets the table for this work, and is really the richness of this report and toolkit that you'll be hearing today. So really grateful for that, and I just really want to share the intention of this work started with really as an internal organization at FNHA. We really wanted to come to a good and common understanding around the language and the words we use around food, understanding that words and languages are really powerful And we wanted those words directly from a community and from knowledge holders' perspective. So I hold my hands up to Qwustenuxun and Fiona for really honoring that and bringing that to life in this work. So with that, I'll pass it back to Qwustenuxun. Thank you.
You know, just in that like vein, the reality that this report and this toolkit was really written almost directly from what we heard from the community. You know, we don't always have this like opportunity to really hear their words, and in this work we tried so hard to just like ensure that we were upholding what we heard, and that in this way, like when I work in other like areas, and there's this quote that, you know, like I hear
Yeah.
that oh,
It's quiet again. Sorry.
it's
for
quiet
interrupting.
again. Oh my goodness. Let me see. How's that? Is that any better? My volume's up as high as it'll go.
A few folks are saying it's better.
Little bit better.
Maybe
Yeah, I'm
just
just
leaning forward a little
like
bit. so
leaning into it, really letting people hear me. Sure, for sure. So just referencing that there's a certain a quote that I hear that I use that really comes to mind in this like work, and it's that we are standing on the shoulders of giants. You know, that this work, yes, the, you know, the FNHA and Fiona and I have had this wonderful opportunity to be able to work with these communities, but just really highlighting that this work is actually theirs, and that they are the ones who really walked us down the road to being able to create these incredible resources. Yeah. Hey, I'll hand it over to Fiona. Ohaichka.
Thanks, everyone. Well, it's hard to do these webinars, and I see that there's over 155 folks here today. And one thing we always know is we'd like to get to know who's with us. I mean, getting to know each other, building relationships is so important, and we don't want this report sitting on a shelf, and you will be the folks that can action it. So we'd love to just spend a few minutes getting to know you. For those of you that feel like you're up for it, we just would love you to go to the website. It's just open up a browser and go to www.menti.com. Some of you might be familiar with it. Our elders and our planning group here have done a few of them, but if you can just go to menti.com, and it should give you a blank page, and then you just want to add this code in it. And so we'll give folks a few minutes to feel comfortable going to menti.com and then putting in the code 7662 7065. And we really want to know where folks are calling in from, and that's one of the questions as well. So menti.com 7662 7065. And then Qwustenuxun, can you stop sharing for 2 seconds, Sam? So what we'd love to know is just how you're doing. Oh, this chat function is up in my... Great. So folks are in it and doing it. Thank you. Curious, calm, tired. I'm kind of tired today too. I'm with you. I feel like I could have used another coffee. Grateful, hopeful, distracted, welcomed, humble, hungry. Well, hopefully you can grab a snack. So thank you. This is just a bit of how folks are doing. And then we'd love to know where you're calling in from today. If you can pin, and I did hear in the chat, maybe this isn't, but the Haida language is missing on this map. So thank you I'll make sure to go on a hunt for a better, more inclusive map. Gosh, lots of people in the lower mainland, of course, as population. Who's our most northern person? Who do we have? We've got some people even from Alberta calling in. We've got some people, a Coast Salish family from the south of the so-called border. Wonderful. All right. The next one is, what are your hopes for today? What are you hoping to learn more about the common language? Just to help make sure that we hit each point with the knowledge holders today and with Qwustenuxun and I to understand. How to communicate respectfully, to have a better understanding. Seek to understand, deepen my engagement with the topic. Yeah, lots of understanding, and this is part of this. I feel like there's a bit of like truth telling in it as well, and understanding, learning to respectfully communicate. Great. How to apply the toolkit. What a powerful one. Learn and love more about my culture. Beautiful. Wisdom, understanding, how to share space. Wow. Thank you all. To use this in my practice. Just learn about the project findings, the voices of the elders, learn about the toolkit. Wonderful. And then last but not least, how could we have a conversation about food without knowing some of your favorite foods? So if folks could just share a little bit about what is one or two of your favorite foods. It's hard to ever pick one. Qwustenuxun, can you ever pick one? No.
No, I don't think I could. Dry fish is on the list, and octopus. And but you know what? I think one that I'm usually have to be like honest with is I really like Chinese food. Oh, I could eat like Chinese food all day, every day, forever. But no, only traditional food, right? Oh my.
I think all foods can fit. I do love the potato a lot as well. Berries, sushi, cake, cheese, salmon, halibut, burritos, moose, elk, cake. Wonderful. Spot prawns. Oh, Josephine just shared with me salted salmon. Oh, yummy. Okay, Seamus is telling us we're hungry. Maybe we should get on with the presentation. I didn't mean to make you hungry. Anyways, thank you for participating and for us just to spend a bit of time to receive and get to know you a little bit better. We really appreciate it. So welcome. We're just really glad you're here, but what are you here for? What's the next little hour going to be like for you? So we've kind of done some introductions to get to know each other a little bit better. And also thank you, Haichkasiam Qwustenuxun, for that song and welcoming us in such a good way. And what we're going to do is walk through the process of how we found these 4 terms, and then the interviews and knowledge sharing from all the knowledge keepers across the regions and across the so-called province. And we're going to walk you through what we created with their words and with their wisdom, looking at the iceberg model. And we're going to walk through the 4 words. And then just, I guess, how do we move this work forward? How do we help ensure that the elders' knowledge around these words and the importance of understanding that there's deep knowledge and wisdom underneath some of our general assumptions about words, and that they have deeper, more profound meaning. So that's our plan for the next bit. And then we hope to end with at least 20 minutes. That's always the hope, 20 to 30 minutes even, to have some questions. So time to hear from you all. So that's our plan. So we'll So just wanted to talk a little bit about the process, and really, again, grateful to Kathleen and FNHA for realizing that this work needed to be done, that there is an immense amount of conversations when we talk about food and nutrition, but there can be miscommunications and also gaps in our understanding. And so we were offered the opportunity to go through over 30 regional, province-wide regional caucus meetings and reports, food and health plans within nations, kind of like theming to see which words were common. And these were the most common words used about nutrition, health, food, nutrition, medicine. And so these words became alive, and the words were traditional foods, food security, nutrition, and medicine. And so we have some quotes to kind of ground us in these words from the knowledge keepers. And I really want to hold my hands up to Qwustenuxun, and he's going to talk about it. But the final report, you can just use a QR code and you can hear each of the participants speak these quotes. And it's really powerful, of course, to always hear directly from the knowledge holder. So traditional foods. A long time ago, there was a grease trail that went from the West Coast to Alberta. There was lots of trading, and there's still a lot of trading going on today. Lisa Sam. It's nice to go after these kinds of foods from the land, but a lot of us have had a hard time accessing these foods from our land. Simply put, you can't have food sovereignty unless you have control of your land. And that's from Fred, who's joining us today. And then some sharing on food security from Nora Billy. Food security is actually how we're looking after our plants and our food and animals and fish. The Laylam, the house, has here in my house, has food everywhere. And that's the thing we look at is for that security, not only for myself here, but for others in the community. And that's from Fred Rowland in Cowichan. And then we think about the word nutrition. There's a science to nutrition for our food. I've heard the elders who say things like the sea urchins or squid are and they would know the nutritional value. If you had low iron, you'd eat a certain thing. Or if you had a certain vitamin like potassium, they would know what you needed to eat. And that's from Krista Joseph. And then Dan shared with us fish soup on a winter day, berries in the middle of summer on a hot day, cold water from the creek, certain processed foods, dried fish, canned meat, fresh vegetables, the briars in the spring, cow parsnip in August, wild berries in July. All these remind me of nutrition. And medicine. Another thing we lost was salting our fish, and that was from Yvonne. Everything depends on everything else, and that was shared as a Haida law. And so these are just the overarching words, and we just wanted to set the table with the teachings from the knowledge holders. So I'll pass it back to Qwustenuxun.
Oh, hi, CM. In this work, when we were working directly with these communities, I learned I learned a lot. The reality that I frequently do this work in community, and I was using these words, I didn't realize how they were resonating in the community. So when we were asking these regions, it was amazing to hear specific requests or, changes. Like I'm for almost 20 years, I'd used the term traditional like foods all the like time in referencing indigenous like foods. And so when we were asking in the communities, we heard that the actual term traditional like foods is not one that is really widely welcomed. And you know, the reality that when we use the term traditional, it leads us to imagine that whatever we're about to refer to only exists in this older world way, that the idea of something existing as traditional technically fossilizes it. And so a lot of the, you know, these elders and knowledge holders highlighted that we shouldn't just be referring to them as indigenous like foods, and just the like eye-opening reality that they can exist even in this like new world, and that like recipes like change, and that, you know, referring to them only as traditional just locks them in like yesteryear, and that's not how they exist. Or you know, even, you know, the like term food security. I remember we were talking to individuals from Haida Gwaii about this term, and it really struck me. They said that the term food security leads us to the idea of food insecurity, and that we need to work to have enough for when there isn't access, and that we need to somehow work to secure the food, as if, you know, we need to um, protect it. And the word that, you know, they used up there, the like change in that like term, was that they like prefer the term food independence, which was like, yes, that's exactly what we need to be working towards. And so just realizing that when we're working in the communities, that these words can land in ways we don't originally expect or anticipate, and that it was really eye-opening to hear that specifically from the communities. And in this project, one thing I really tried to do was that when we wrote out the report, so there's two aspects of this. There's a report and a toolkit. And in the report, I specifically used quotes from each of the regions and combined them into a cohesive explanation of what we heard from the community in regards to these like words. And so the idea is that when we wrote these regions' responses in that like report, the words in there are not words that I wrote or anybody else wrote. They are a culmination of what we heard directly from the community. Like, we transcribed everything and then removed those specific high quality quotes, and then combine them so that when you're reading these individual responses to these like words, you're actually reading the direct replies from these like regions. And so it's just another like way that these regions were represented through, you know, their own words and their own like actions. And I worked really hard to try to ensure we could include audio. I working in our communities, I'm I'm not sure if it's only me or if it's everybody else, but I learn a lot when I can hear an individual actually speak. You know, I don't have any issue reading, but the idea that you could hear that elder or that knowledge holder actually like share their Lahag viewpoint is so much more powerful than just reading it. So just throughout it, we try to include these QR uh, codes that would allow anybody reading the report, whether it's, you know, hard copy or if it's like online, just like to be able to access and hear those words directly from the community. Let me see if I can run this one here.
West Coast all the way into Alberta. And so there was a lot of trading, and there still is a lot of trading going on. I think even for traditional medicines and wares and whatever, but there's a strong trading lines that happen. So you have food that's not necessarily from here or from the area, but they've traded it in a way.
And, you know, it just adds that extra layer of feeling those words from the community. Hey, I will hand it over to Fiona. Hey.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to like remember that the report is broken down into the regions, right? And that there's the overall, we had to, you know, we took all the teachings and tried to come up with some general definitions and understandings, and really tried to use that in the words of the folks. Like, we didn't paraphrase, really tried to uphold the knowledge holders. But then there's the regional specific teachings. And so we met with the 5 regions, and then also have the broader themes. And then we wanted to get into the deeper understanding that was shared with us through all the knowledge holders. And that is where we came up with the general definitions of the food, of the word, sorry. And then these visuals came up in our mind of this iceberg. There's like the kind of common understanding of a word, like what's visible, what we think of when we hear that word. And what needs to be named here is what is kind of the colonial understanding of that word, or the dominant society's understanding of that word, without the deep historical, cultural, social, land context of that word. And so that's where we talk about the kind of colonial, like surface level understanding is under what's visible. But then we also wanted to talk about what's not visible, what as outsiders, as people, settlers, occupiers on these lands, we might have no idea of, because it's deeply embedded into another culture, another way of knowing and being. And then also then what's hidden. And so we'll move to the next slide to really take a look at of how we tried to lay this out, and really just look at, there's a lot that we might not understand, and might not have been ever taught, right? I always think about like who informed my thinking from my early age, and then my teachers and my degrees, and who was helping me understand the basic, you know, understanding of certain words around food and nutrition and health. And so the goal is to remind us what could be the common understanding, what is visible. And then we really want to unearth the colonial thinking, unveil any gaps that we might have, and also kind of provide that opportunity that we might have some biases and lack of understanding around certain words. And then also what I kept hearing from the knowledge keepers, and they really always are helping me understand, is how this ties to the land and what happened and what has happened and what currently happens to the land. And then also how things like climate change are impacting things. So we really offer this as a guide for us to continually be reflecting. And we know that critical self-reflection, critical reflection is so a part of healthcare and public health and nutrition, that we need to be constantly thinking things through and understanding. And so as we were developing the visual, I was really thinking about these critical reflections that have been shared with me over the last 20 years about how did I start to understand that, wow, I'm missing layers to this. So we developed some critical, will these slides be released to us? I don't know. We'll think, Kathleen will answer that maybe at the end. We'll just make sure that folks can have access to the material. I know the webinar will be, so we'll make sure to get that for you. So sorry about that. So each word has the visual iceberg that has what's visible, what is not visible, especially if you're an outsider or don't you're not Indigenous, you might not have those teachings, you might not have made those connections yet. And then also what's hidden, what our society hasn't and is barely scratching the surface at acknowledging. So historical context, current context. So we want to explore those. So we have decided to create some critical questions that could walk you from the top of the iceberg down through to the bottom. And so here's the traditional foods visual. So do you know which foods are traditional to the area that you live on? How does traditional foods connect people to the territory? How are we using traditional food? How using that term sometimes fossilizes the concepts of Indigenous foods and Indigenous cuisine. How some people, you know, in food systems work, continue to talk about local food and local food systems, but invisibilize Indigenous food systems. And so we've got a layer of colonial food systems minimizing the local foods of the land. And so we're really hoping, there's no answers, these answers lie within ourselves. And the goal is for us to unearth some of that. And this could be great for teams, nutrition teams, or healthcare teams to really start to kind of do these questions and maybe having a bit of an exploration together. So maybe I'll pause there and see if Qwustenuxun has anything to add, but yeah.
No, just using the combination of the words from the community with the iceberg almost as a way to lead you through those like questions, and that just the reality that we enter this work to help, and that if we don't have a complete understanding of these like two worlds, we can accidentally cause like harm. And so this like resource is really like designed around trying to ensure that when we walk into these like relationships, we have that wider like viewpoint. That's all. Yeah. And I'd love to hear from Fred about nutritional foods. Okay.
Thank you. So growing up, I got to be able to grow up with my grandpa and look up my grandpa and grandpa from Spencer's Bridge, and they I knew, having to know them all for quite a while. I got to talk to them as they were getting older, and they talked about the the dirty 30s. My grandpa was born in 1912. My grandma right after, I think, and so they grew up in the dirty 30s, but they didn't have a food issue. They had food independence. And my grandma said they fed a lot of people in the Spentus Bridge area that came through looking for work, actually just looking for food, not looking for work, and fed them, and they're on their way. So I was brought up like that, and brought up with my own father, and hunting all the time. We always made either, we always had to moose, elk, or moose, deer, all the time in our family, and lots of fish. And so for me growing up, we didn't have food independence at some times of our life. Sure, it was tough, but we never starved in all of the time that I grew up. So I think for me, having to be raised by parents and my grandparents, I've seen the things that they did and had to do in order to survive on traditional foods, and they were good at it. Although, you hear the sad things that happened to our people when in the early part of the century, where we weren't allowed to go off the reserve to hunt. We had to get a permit and all those things, and it was tough for them back then. And I think caused a lot of hate towards conservation officers and that. And it's still today that my grandpa, 96 years old, has an attitude towards conservation officers, the same kind of attitude that I have. I think it just, for those in my lifetime, born in the 50s, late 50s, we got chased around all the time doing our food, trying to catch our foods. And so I think that the traditional foods that we grew up in, and for those who didn't, are now seeking that. And so I think that, a lot of the things that we can do, especially the eye trade that we talk about. I remember my dad trading. I remember my grandpa trading, and so it became my way of life as well. And I grew older and still do that. So traditional foods, I think for a lot of us in rural communities still exist. But what I notice is that those people who grew up in the cities have no idea what our traditional foods are. And we're trying to bridge that gap between the people off reserve or never lived on the land, and the people who live in a community and live on majority of the land. So I think that's a good way for us to share our foods is with each other. And just the other day, I was at Kamloops at a basketball tournament and bought some smoked oolakan. You could smell it in the whole gym. So I went over and bought a bunch. And so, those kind of things, I think the economy is still there within our people on traditional foods. And although that can be problematic for us, I think, when the economics come in place about buying and selling food. And so my whole sort of strategy is to how do we produce traditional foods in a trade environment with our community, and get it back to that whole principle of reciprocity amongst our people, because that's one of the good things that we see as Qw'utsun people is that. And I think that reciprocity is a principle that's shared amongst every Indigenous community that I know of. And to be able to share our food is priceless. Qwustenuxun.
Thanks, CM, for that. Fred, would we be able to talk about traditional medicines? Oh, hi, CM.
Yeah, so I don't know if when I got into medicines, I sort of look back in my life, and my grandma was a great medicine knowledge holder around medicines. I didn't find that out till I was quite older. So my dad learned quite a bit, and he taught me some things. I was growing up anywhere, from 6 years old to, whenever he passed away. And he always talked about some medicines that his dad used or his grandma or his great grandma. And so it was something that was passed on. And when I got to study more about medicines, one of the things that I seen about medicines was medicines were harder and harder to come by because of the land management systems that we're in. And so I think one of the best things that we can do is protect those ecosystems where we know our medicines are in. And the ability to share the knowledge with your people is critical. That's the role I think we all share as medicine holders, to be able to share our medicine with our people because it's their knowledge, not our knowledge, and be able to help them provide for those medicines. The other thing as well is the whole trade arrangement between the communities, following the protocols on how to harvest. It's just like anything else. You just don't go tromping in other people's area and start taking their medicines. Some of them get a little bit upset. And so I trade amongst the Silks people and the Kapma people and Statlium people, my own people, so whatnot. And they also learn about the medicines that we trade because there are medicines now that don't grow in our area. And just the other day, I found a medicine right in Barrier, where I 10 miles from our community, that I never knew existed there. And so that was balsam root. And so it tells me that the way that our environment is, that our medicines that have been growing in semi-desert areas now are moving up into those other areas. And we're seeing that. I'm seeing that in my lifetime. I've seen that now, and I've seen other medicines move. And so I think it's something that around traditional medicines that has to be ground proof with your elders. We have to be respectful of the people's place that they pick. We have to be respectful of the protocols around picking and other people's territory. I think the most important thing for me as a knowledge holder around medicine is that medicines can kill. And we have medicines that can kill. And if it's not used right, it can kill people. And so it's those kind of protocols between medicine holders that have to be very tight. And when you talk to people, when I talk to other people who, we talk about these kind of medicines, what they can be used for, because some of those poison medicines are the most powerful medicines that we have in order to cure some of our problems in skin disease or other areas, and stomach disease. So I think it's something that I've been quite passionate about, but also quite tight about the knowledge I share in some aspects. And I think that, for some of the medicines that I'm seeing, because I spent 6 months in a hospital last year when my wife was in hospital for a bad accident, and you can't use our medicines in a hospital. So I think that from our medicines came from underground, and our knowledge of the medicines came back from the underground and are now surfacing back up for us to share. But that share comes with protocols and responsibilities. And hoping that in the future that our children, we have to educate them from a young level, right when they start speaking the language, because it's the language that holds the knowledge more than the English language, our knowledge. Whoever knowledge or whatever language that you speak holds that knowledge. And it's explained to me that our language takes the knowledge of the plant and explains it a lot better and how it's been used and the protocols around it than the English language will ever do. And so for those who um, have make medicines. We are in the stage where people are now selling our medicines. I think in times that's going to have to happen for people who you know have some economic problems, and in the community. I was taught from my elders and the people that I've known got my knowledge from is that we can't sell our medicines. And so I follow that. I don't sell any of my traditional medicines. I only trade. And sometimes you might only get a cigarette for it. It's still a trade. And sometimes you get elk meat or whatever. So just in closing, I think for me, medicines are something that's going to change the way we see things in life and for the betterment, because most of our medicines are preventative medicines. People always ask if, you know, we have a medicine for, you know, stage 4 cancer. I've been through that stage 4 cancer, and, you know, there is medicines that will work, but you're in the hands of the creator when you get to stage 4. That's all I tell them. Qwustenuxun.
Good for your words there, CM. Fred. I'd like to invite Josephine to speak about food security, CM. Josephine.
Thank you, Jared. How it explains the food security in this toolkit. It talks about when all people at all times have access to sufficient, safe, nutritious foods to maintain a healthy and active life. It talks about how freezers are full, pantries are full, cupboards, bellies, lunch boxes. I think the last time I experienced food security was in the 80s. Food security was a family thing in the 80s. When I was growing up, my grandpa had an orchard. My grandfather had a ranch that he grew all kinds of vegetables. My dad was a fisherman. My uncles were hunters. So all the family, we all had food. Our cupboards were full. We didn't have freezers. We had cellars. We had, that's how we preserved our food. Today, I experience food insecurity. I don't have any traditional food. I have nephews that fish, and they would rather sell salmon than share it. I buy in the fall time. I buy wind dried to get me through the fall. I buy it from one of my friends who fishes back home. That's the only time that I have any kind of traditional food. We don't have hunters in our family anymore. What has happened to our hunters and our fishermen is pollution. I heard an elder talk about this pollution. They have cell phones, they have games, they have music, you know, how they dress, all these things that interfere with how they learn traditionally, how they don't learn traditionally. So it stops them from wanting to learn our ways because it's not in with what they do. We need to start sharing when our children are small. It needs to go into schools. It needs to. There's so many, like no gardens, no hunters, no origins, no fishermen. Cost of food today. I mean, I'm a senior. I have an income of $1,700 a month and my rent is $1,000. I have bills, you know, and I'm not the only one. There are a lot of us living in cities and can't afford to live on reserve and don't have family on reserve, don't have homes. So, you know, they can't have access to traditional food or healthy eating, adequate nutrition. You know, they can't make better food choices. Oh, okay, hot dogs and macaroni and cheese for dinner, you know, coffee and toast for breakfast, you know, so it's really, food security is really tough. You know, how do we share our knowledge when the youth don't want to listen? There are a handful of people that I know who are teaching their children. You see them opening ceremonies, you see them singing and dancing, you see children teaching parents and grandparents Halkamilam. That needs to keep happening. We need to target our youth, really dedicate ourselves. And I want to go into this thing with languages. They say that, oh, we're preserving our language. You know, we have this one traditional speaker of Halkamilam in Stalo Nation, in the Stalo Nation. That's only one part of what Halkamilam is. There's a dialect that could be from Hoop, and the dialect in Chehalis. They're two different things. You know, all these things we need to start teaching our youth, our children. It's really important to share. Food security is only one small part of what we need to start teaching, start sharing, start opening up. This is a beginning. I am so glad that you guys are doing this, that we have the ability to share with different people. And someone put on here something about a medicine walk. Do one in every territory. Should start sharing our knowledge. You know, it's really important. I'm so glad that we're here today, that we get to share this. And hearing the words of Fred and everybody else who's here. I look forward to hearing Yvonne. And I'd really like to thank you all for being here. And hopefully this is a beginning of good things to come. Qwustenuxun.
Haichka, CM Josephine for those words. Haichka for the reality, CM Haichka. Like to invite Yvonne to speak about nutrition, CM Haichka.
Israel, good day. I'm happy to be here today. What a wonderful day to talk about food and think about food and the nutritious food that our elders ate. And our elders were strong and they always remembered what was taught to them. And our elder here in Scoutcale, she used to tell us when we were younger, you know, that we had to eat traditional foods because that's who we are and that's where we come from. This is our land. And I recall her talking recently about the fish, and she said, you know, the fish feeds the people, the fish feeds the people, and then the fish go and spawn. And she said the fish know where they're going, and they go to the same place every year where their ancestors went. And she told us that the fish feed us, and then when they spawn, they feed the trees and the plants and the other, species of fish in the rivers and streams and creeks. So our elders are so amazing. They knew all about nature and our land. And our elder even said, and then we go back to the earth when we die. So it's a cycle. And that the fish that we eat is good for our brain. It's got good oils that are good for our body. And we eat the skapach, and that's the bone behind the nose on the head of the fish. We eat the skapach, and it's clear and it's a soft bone, and it's good for our bones. And yeah, and we eat the eyeball too, and I think the eyeball tastes like butter. It's so good. But if you haven't grown up with your elders, you might not know that, because when I was in residential school, I didn't know that, but I learned how to eat the skapach and the eyes and the cheeks, and they're the most delicious part of the fish. And there's even a story about the fish and how the people put the bones back in the river, because in the olden days, the stories that they told, that the animals that gave their life for us, the finned one, the winged one, the four-legged, they gave their life for us, and they are our brothers and sisters. So they take care of us. And we have a connection to everything that nourishes us and keeps us healthy. We have a connection to the land, to the rivers, to the mountains, and to the plants. So our elders were so amazing with their knowledge and with their love and their respect. And they always had prayers for what they took from nature. And we have our songs, we sing our songs every time we have a meal, because we need to give thanks for our food and bless our food, so that when we eat it, it will make us strong, mind, body, and spirit. And yeah, it's just so amazing, the teachings that come with food. Like when our auntie would get sick, my sister would say, we need to make her fish head soup with the tail, and because we don't waste anything. So when you're feeling lonely or you're feeling low energy, if you have fish soup, it's going to make you happy, help you to be happy. And our people, I think I had to relearn how to eat, to take the time to eat. And I learned how to eat and enjoy and be grateful for food in a sweat lodge. Because in residential school, I don't remember the food they gave us. I remember shepherd's pie, but I didn't enjoy it. But in a sweat lodge, they bring in, on the third round, they bring in water and they bring in juice and they bring in fruit and vegetables. So there must be a lot of people that lost even the ability to enjoy food, to sit down at the table with your family and enjoy food with your children. And that was one of our most important teachings also, was to sit down and tell stories and share at mealtime. But now I know some of us, we watch TV and we eat, or, you know, we can't even sit down because we're in a rush. But we need to really sit down and give thanks and be appreciative of the food that we eat. Yeah, and my auntie told me that the chiefs were the providers and that they would have a garden and they would pick their garden and they would distribute it into the community, to the families. So everybody shared everything, and everybody was gifted with something that they did. And there were hunters and fishermen and the ones that picked the plants. So we had to appreciate everybody for the gifts that were given to them. And it was our elders who told them what their gift was, because they watched them from the time they were born to toddlers and to little children. They watched them and they knew if they were going to be a hunter or a fisherman or a medicine person. And everybody has a gift, and we have to appreciate each other for the gifts that we carry, and we can't be jealous of one another. Our people weren't like that. And nowadays we have fast foods and they are empty calories. They're just fillers and they cause disease. And when our elders taught us about food, they said we had to be in a good mood. We had to be happy when we were cooking, because when the people eat our food, they will be happy. So everything that we did, how we lived before, we were always taught good ways of being. And yeah, I don't know, does anybody have any questions?
Oh, hi, Yvonne. I think we'll hop to questions in just a few minutes. Hi, yeah.
Okay. I think that's all I can share now. Okay, all my relations.
Hi, Yvonne, for those words about nutrition. Haichka. I will ask Fiona to speak to our next slide, Sam Haichka.
How do you ever follow those 3 or 4 beautiful people? Thank you all so much for taking the time to share with us again. Yeah, just feeling those teachings and feeling your words with much gratitude. And you know, I was just kind of looking at I have all the 4 icebergs sitting here and just really kind of feeling it. And I really feel like it's important that I acknowledge, when I look at what's hidden, I didn't learn any of that in my nutrition degree. You know, I didn't learn about how actually my nutrition profession evolved as in residential school with nutrition experiments, or how the food guide evolved due to those experiments. And yeah, or understanding the intergenerational loss due to residential school and creation of the reserve system, Indian hospitals. And I remember coming out of my nutrition degree, and I'm giggling because it's so absurd, that I was going to be a nutrition expert on something, that I had this nutrition wisdom. And I remember telling Qwustenuxun, and I use this one quite often, but I had an elder finally resist me enough, and he's like, can you stop recommending salad? I don't want to eat salad. And he took me to his front porch, and he opened the door and he said, that's my grocery store. And it was this beautiful beach full, or used to be full of food, right? Like crabs and shellfish and salmon and like eelgrass and so much nutrition that was there. But then he talked me through the fact that there was a water treatment plant on the right. So then that was contaminating. There was farms up above that were having agriculture runoff. And then he was also like, I can't hunt and fish. Like there's so many layers. And he's like, but I don't want to eat salad. So just kind of really humbled always in this work around how much I don't know and how much was hidden and not talked about in my nutrition degree. And that was 5 years of school, 5 years of post-secondary education that didn't talk about what the elders just shared, all that knowledge, intergenerations, thousands and thousands years of knowledge. And so that also speaks to what is not visible in the iceberg about how much I don't know about culture and practices and rites of passage and storytelling, and just feeling that right now. And one thing that I think is interesting as a nutrition professional, healthy eating wasn't mentioned once in the scans around the community's voices. That's not a word, we use it all the time, healthy eating healthy, and it wasn't part of the vernacular in the communities. And so really thinking about what words are used and being thoughtful about where we're coming from and what we're doing. And so when we think about moving forward, I ask those of us, especially those settlers of ours, to really spend time in the what's hidden and the critical reflections. Don't put this report on a shelf. There's so much wisdom shared with us through the knowledge keepers, and we have 3 represented today, but there was so many more. And thank you for their voices being highlighted in the report, Qwustenuxun. But how do we also amplify this work within nutrition schools, nursing schools, care aides, environmental health? Like, how do we start to be the tool and the advocate for these teachings and this work? And it can be so hard. You go through 5 years of school, you think you know something, and then you come into the world, and then there's all this reflecting and understanding that needs to happen. So at the end of the report, there are these kind of reflective thoughts that we and the knowledge keepers created around how to amplify and move this work forward. And again, some critical self-reflections. Before you enter big projects, before you start making plans, who do you have around the table? Is this an idea brought forward to you from community? And so really those reflective pieces. So we hope that you can spend some time with this, and maybe this becomes a club for your work, that you got to work through some of the questions reflected in this report. Kathleen was sharing with me in the chat that the report and the toolkit are available, and Kathleen can send them out to you. You just need to email Kathleen. She'll put her email in the chat if you don't have it, but you must have it here. And then, but just you need to order them together, just if you're making sure you want both of them. So I'm pausing for a sec just to kind of think about what else we might need to share, Qwustenuxun. Okay. So I am going to ask folks before we go into questions to just take 2 to 3 minutes and journal on a piece of paper or onto a Word document, how can you utilize this learning tool within your own practice? And how can you amplify and support the dissemination of this important work from the knowledge holders across the 5 regions in BC? So how do you utilize it for yourself, like personalizing it, but then also how can you amplify it? So we're going to give you, what time is it here? We're going to give you a few minutes just to write that down. It's kind of an accountability measure for yourself and this work. And so we'll give folks 3 minutes and then we're going to open it up to questions. And I see some things in the chat. So we'll come back together at 1:34 or 11:34. Well, thank you for taking some time to think about it and also reaching out to us if you have ideas and words of wisdom to help us with amplifying this important work and the teachings of the knowledge keepers. So I'll pass it back to you, Qwustenuxun. Many thanks.
Yeah. Just wanted to leave this like opportunity if anybody had any questions about you know, the rapport, the usability, the accessibility, or anything about our webinar today that we could help you with, please don't hesitate to ask. Hey,
Hi, my name's Angela. So I have I was following someone on social media, and I don't know where they are, but they're on the West Coast somewhere, and they live off the land. And from that, I've been learning like a lot about the natural foods. And he was saying that there's so many, like just like so many that are, you know, that, you know, like their ancestors have provided for them, because it takes a long time before it's ready to eat and that. And just that there's like so much out there, and like no real knowledge like mainstream about these foods, you know. um like, and I'm new to this area, so I'm like, I don't know how much low knowledge. I guess it varies, you know, but I know that with medicines, people want to hold on to their knowledge because people like take the knowledge and like sell it or whatever, eh? So I guess the same could be with foods and stuff, you know, like they could go in there and they could harvest like everything instead of leaving some. So I guess it's like a kind of a almost a tricky thing, because as much as you want to share with people, you don't want people to take advantage. And as much as people want to learn, if someone has the knowledge, they don't know that if they share their knowledge with them about these things, that they're going to take care of it. So what I'm going to try to do here, because I do healthy snack programs where I work. And we make fun things, like we made fruit roll-ups, so we dehydrated the fruit, and you know, like, so I'm really looking forward to doing that in the summer when we can, you know, like go and pick berries and stuff and preserve it. So I'm gonna I'm still building those relationships with the communities around here. So I'd like to build relationships with my local knowledge keepers and just find new things that I can bring back to the share with the community and stuff. I guess I didn't really have a question, just kind of a
Yeah, no, that's okay, Angela. Just, I guess, you know, you are really highlighting something that we did hear from a lot of our like work throughout these like regions. It's just about the reality that the resource is not as plentiful as it once was, and that there are communities that are worried about sharing too much, but that you know, it's very much a what do they say, a double-edged a sword, right? We want to be able to share this information with those like individuals who are working with you know, like our youth who have, you know, those opportunities to be able to then share it with them. So it's up to the individual communities to really choose what they want to like share. But as you know, like an individual who holds some of the knowledge here at home, there are foods that we're less concerned about. Like here, things like salal, right? There's lots of like salal. So any of the, you know, the information regarding it, I don't have any issue having to like share. But as you know, like an example, I wouldn't be out there highlighting the uses of something like wild ginger out here, because it's not as prevalent as it like once was. But yeah, no, those are very valid viewpoints. Yeah. Hey.
Haichka, such an important question, Angela. And I think, you know, when you think about the bottom of the iceberg and the middle, it's like, what can we do to restore ecosystems? You know, as visitors on these lands, I know that I have a little bit of a backyard, and so planting some of these plants, if I want to have a relationship with them, so I'm not harvesting out in community or container boxes, all those important ways, and then also acts of restoration and reciprocity, so that we're restoring, removing ivy and invasive species can also be super helpful. And so kind of there's the learning about Indigenous medicines, and then there's also the role of protecting them and ensuring their access for Indigenous people. But I see Fred has something to say, so I'm going to be quiet.
One of the areas in which, when you talk about traditional plants and medicinal plants, that you can't separate the protocols around harvesting. It's impossible, because the protocols around harvesting are preservation protocols. They are born into the way that we harvest the medicines and the food. You can't separate that. So when we're talking about medicines, and then the way we pick them, and the way we preserve them in the land, is that those protocols have to be followed. And that I can't speak more about that, because right now that protocols are your responsibility to the plant. And so that's why I think you can't separate those protocols from everything else. You need to understand them. Qwustenuxun.
Fred. Any other questions while we're all here together? Oh, Francine, I'd love to hear from you.
Hello, thank you for this amazing presentation and sharing of knowledge, and thank you to Fred, Josephine, and Yvonne, and for sharing your teachings. And I think that this is such an important conversation to have. I'm calling in from our traditional unceded territory of Stamanis First Nation here on Vancouver Island. And but I just really want to share. I come from Nuxalk Nation in Bellacoola, and Oologans is a huge staple in our diet, and so Ooligan grease is a huge part, has been a huge part of our diet. And the Oologans weren't running for about 27 years, and they actually came up our river in Bellacoola, and it was quite powerful to see. And because the food is medicine, the food, everything what we're talking about, it is all medicine. And I think that it's something that is definitely missing, within the educational institutions across the board, like for school. And what I was seeing back home was our youth really invested and really interested, and but really looking at it as like wanting to protect, because the Oologans haven't been for almost 30 years. And so I think that for me, what I see is like important conversations to have, and how do we have those if it is going to be within this with schools. So I guess I don't really have a question, but just really wanted to just say thank you for this, and thank you for all of the work that has gone into this. Thank you.
Francine, for those words. Yeah, it was an incredible learning opportunity for us, asking all these questions and working with all those elders, and it's been an absolute like honor to have the opportunity to then share all of that information out as well. So for sure. Hey, oh, hi, Tapka. Any other questions, or everybody's ready to go have lunch now?
these are the moments where you wish we could all be together and we could have brought our favorite food and just eaten together. It would have been delicious. Anyone? All right. Well, we're always around. You can always contact us. Qwustenuxun's all over social media. And you have Kathleen, and you can always find me as well. But really just want to wrap our arms around and thank Brett and Yvonne and Josephine and all the knowledge keepers that took so much time and effort, again, sharing their wisdom so we could create something to help us continue on our learning and unlearning journey. So our hands are raised so high to them, and we just really appreciate your time, and we know you're busy. And so really grateful for that. And also thanks to Kathleen. She is a champion always. Really hold my hands up to Kathleen. And all of you that are doing food work. It's tough. It's busy, hard work right now. And just hopefully this gives you the pause before you rush into anything, and do it thoughtfully, intentionally, and of course in relationship. So thank you all so much, and keep in touch, hopefully. And go eat something delicious.
Kutzlama.
Qwutuk.
Ulam nama sunset.
Thank you. Gwatch, thank you.
Qwustenuxun.
Thank you, everyone.
Qwustenuxun.
Kind of like watching a cascade of people just
Yeah.
slowly leave.
Yeah.
I think we were up to 157 at one
Yep.
time. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah, it was a really great turnout.
I'm just going to put folks in the waiting room.
Oh, Kathleen, I can hear your voice. I feel for you, my friend.
And I just woke up this morning. I was fine last night.
Oh no.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't fine. I was
But
kind of. There we go. Thank you.
All right, there we go. Oh, that was better. That was
Oh,
less
we should stop the recording.
I
We should stop the recording.
I hit stop